Shabbat Shalom and welcome to A Taste of Shabbat at Beth Tikvah this morning. I'm Doug Millstone and I am the Synagogue president. First of all, a Yasher Koach to everyone who helped with A Taste of Shabbat. Rabbi Grover, Rabbi Sachs, Chazan Kovari, Reuven on the piano, and Ricky who did all of the IT work. I just want everyone to know that the leadership is working hard to ensure the vitality of the congregation and to make sure that everyone is connected as well as we can during these difficult times. Please log on to the Beth Tikvah website to see all of the wonderful Zoom interactive programs that are available for everyone in the congregation. Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
ישמחו במלכותך, ישמחו במלכותך, שומרי שבת, שומרי שבת, וכל יוני עונג שבת. ישמחו במלכותך, ישמחו במלכותך, שומרי שבת, שומרי שבת, וכל יוני עונג שבת. המקדשי, המקדשי שבי, המקדשי, המקדשי שבי, כולם ישבעו ויתענגו מטובך, ישמחו במלכותך, ישמחו במלכותך, שומרי שבת, שומרי שבת וכל יונג עונג שבת וישבי רצית בו וקידשתו שבת ישמחו במלכותך ישמחו במלכותך שומרי שבת שומרי שבת וכל יונג עונג שבת חמדת ימים אותו קראת זכר למעשה בראשית ישמחו במלכותך ישמחו במלכותך שומרי שבת שומרי שבת וכל יונג עונג שבת ישמחו במלכותך ישמחו במלכותך שומרי שבת שומרי שבת וקורא עונג שבת. איה מקום כבודו כבודו מלא עולם איה מקום כבודו כבודו מלא עולם איה מקום כבודו כבודו מלא עולם משרת שואלים זה לזה איה מקום כבודו משרת שואלים זה לזה איה מקום כבודו איה מקום כבודו.
Understandably, we've all been spending a lot more time online in recent weeks. And one of the more disturbing trends I've noticed is the anger and acrimony that I keep seeing on social media. On Twitter, I see post after post of righteous indignation against those who are viewed as taking COVID-19 too lightly. The same thing I see on Facebook. Posts publicly calling out, ridiculing individuals and businesses to whom the poster believes are not properly following social distancing measures. Even on the news and evening talk shows, I don't see disagreement. I see resentment and rage. I believe firmly that all of us, especially those of us who are at a lower risk, we have a responsibility to others to do what is ever in our power to protect them. I believe firmly that this means listening to public health experts, listening to our leaders. It means staying in for non-essential purposes to save lives. Yet many of these posts that I see from others who share the same views as I do, they make me question, am I on the right side of things? Recently, I saw an extreme example of what I'm talking about. There's a Facebook group for the Jewish community. It helps people navigate the crisis. And when it began, it was a wonderful place. People offering to drop off matzah during Passover to those who couldn't get any. Others offering old laptops or tablets to help people connect with loved ones. But lately I've seen more and more posts singling people out for their behavior. Posts about businesses someone's reported or neighbors they've called the cops on for not following the government's guidelines. And again, I believe in the guidelines, but I recognize it's not black and white. There are business owners whose whole lives have been devastated by the economic impact of isolation. There are people who simply want to spend time with family and friends. Their lives have been devastated by isolation. Because loneliness, as we've seen, can be deadly too. The first part of these posts that bothers me is that we can all pretend to be experts in infectious disease, public health, or economics. But the truth is, most of us aren't. The truth is that the situation is incredibly complicated and complex. Even experts are changing their opinions based on new evidence as they continue to learn more. We can see different responses in different countries. Sweden and China we can look to as extreme examples, both ends of the spectrum. And we see everything in between. The truth is, none of us know for certain what the correct answer is. Only hindsight will tell. But here's what I know. If we look at our Parsha this week, it contains the commandment to both sanctify God's name and another commandment to not desecrate it. But we know that the reality is it's more complicated than that. In the Talmud, based on another verse, V'chayei behem, you shall live by them, the rabbis understand that the mitzvot are meant to guide us in life, not to lead us to death. And therefore, if someone were to threaten your life if you don't violate a commandment, you're supposed to violate the commandment. Still, though, it gets more complicated. It's not that simple. As many of you know, the rabbis teach that we should violate all but 3 of the commandments under the threat of death. But even knowing that detail doesn't make one an expert in Jewish law, or even in this matter of it. It's simply the most common part of the discussion cited in general for laity. The discussion is actually much more complicated. Maimonides writes that there are other situations in which one should choose not to violate a commandment, even if your life is threatened. If it's done in the presence of 10 Jews, then he says one should sacrifice their life for any mitzvah. Yet still it gets more complicated. If it's under the decree of a wicked ruler, one should sacrifice their life rather than violate a commandment, even in private. The situation is much more complicated than it appears in just a soundbite during a sermon or a class. In the same way, the situation we're in today is much more complicated, much more complex than people are willing to admit. It doesn't fit into a simple soundbite on the news or even a written article. None of us, except those who've devoted their lives to studying these issues, are experts. And even the experts disagree. Just like in Jewish law, just like in civil law, just like in any other area of expertise. The other matter that disturbs me about these posts is their tone. The outrage, the anger, it's palpable. You've heard the term social justice warrior. And given the rise in the number of posts I've seen, I fear more people are acting like this group, or acting as under the title. Don't get me wrong. As a rabbi, I'm deeply committed to the value of social justice. It's a core idea of our tradition. I feel confident in saying the first social justice warrior was Avraham Avinu. And yet in the generations since, Jews have continued to fight for social justice. It's a noble cause. My distaste for the movement, it's not about the values, but the methods. Indignant personal attacks online is not social justice. It's a horrific form of Lashon Hara. And besides, it does nothing to accomplish the value it claims to promote: justice. Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel, he was a true warrior for justice. He didn't just write about it, he walked the walk, so to speak. Literally. He marched side by side with Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. And Heschel famously said, "My feet are praying." His fight for justice was not with antagonistic and belittling posts. It was with actions. And his actions weren't violent. They were never hateful. And they always recognized the humanity of those whose views he fought against, no matter how horrific their views might be. I want to tell you about another warrior for justice whom I admire, Daryl Davis. Davis, a black man, he befriended over 200 members of the Ku Klux Klan. And through his friendship, not through yelling or screaming, through friendship, he helped them to change their views and give up their robes. He understood that yelling at someone you disagree with doesn't change minds. Ad hominem attacks only embolden others to dig in, to defend their positions. This is the reason for my aversion to those who use the internet as the sole platform for their activism, who use name-calling, public shaming, and bullying as tools to create the value I hold dear: justice. It doesn't work, and it's counterproductive. Returning to our weekly Parsha, Maimonides asserts that only one who does a mitzvah for God's sake fulfills the commandment to sanctify God's name, the mitzvah of Kiddush Hashem. When one does it for personal reward or for their own glory, the reality, he says, is they've done nothing at all. Public shaming is just that. It's nothing. It's nothing but trying to get oneself glory at the expense of another. It doesn't solve the problem. It doesn't change views. It doesn't honor the values one claims to stand for. Instead of publicly ridiculing a business owner for trying to make a living, reach out to them, express your concerns. Instead of shaming someone who visits a family member or friend, speak to them like a person. Share what worries you. Most importantly, do this in private. And if you feel the need, and there are needs, there are legitimate times to alert a government organization about a public danger, do it. But don't tweet about it. Don't post it on Facebook that you did it. That is the perfect textbook example of doing something to receive glory for oneself, rather than actually the value you claim to support, the reason you claim it's behind. If you find yourself waiting to see how many likes you get, how many shares or retweets you get, then you need to ask yourself some serious and difficult questions. And for the majority of us who are not the poster, the majority of us in reality aren't. But we are members of the mob. We're the people who give them the glory. We need to stop, because we are just as much to blame. We are just as much a part of the problem. And it's the same for those on the other side of the argument. Angry protests, vandalism, threats of violence, these aren't solutions. They simply encourage those you disagree with to fortify their values, to fortify their views further. It is time for us to rise above seeking honor, seeking to serve the causes we believe in, by actually doing it, by having an open dialogue and discussions, recognizing the humanity of those with whom we disagree. Nobody has all the answers. This is a complicated and challenging moment in history. And we need to recognize that even the experts disagree. That's not a bad thing. The solution is real action, not empty posts. The solution is dialogue and humility, not public humiliation. This Shabbat, I ask, may our values guide us in these uncertain times. We need them now more than ever. I ask that our deeds sanctify God's names by sanctifying the holiness in each other. May we be deserving of God's blessing, because our deeds are worthy of being a tribute to God's name. Shabbat Shalom.
לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור נגיד עוד לך, ולנצח נצחים, ולנצח נצחים, קדושתך נקדיש. לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור נגיד גודל לך, ולנצח נצחים, ולנצח נצחים, קדושתך נקדיש. ושבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד, כי אל מלך גדול, כי אל מלך גדול וקדוש אתה. לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור נגיד גודלך, ולנצח נצחים, ולנצח נצחים, קדושתך נקדיש. ברוך אתה אדוני. אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא, לעת נשא וחפצו כל, אזי מלך שמו נקרא. אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא, לעת נשא וחפצו כל, אזי מלך שמו נקרא. ויחרי ככלות הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא, והוא היה והוא עובד והוא יהיה בתפארה. אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא, לעת נשא בחפצו כל, אזי מלך שמו נקרא. והוא אחד ואין שני, לימשילו ליחבירה, בלי ראשית בלי תכלית ולא העוז ועם ישראל. אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא, לעת נשא בחפצו כל, אזי מלך שמו נקרא. והוא אלי וחי גואלי וצור חברי בעת צרה, והוא ניסי ומנוס לי מנת כוסי ביום אקרא. אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא, לעת נשא בחפצו כל, אזי מלך שמו נקרא. בידו הפקיד וכי ותשען ויעירה ואם ברוכי גבייתי אדוני לי ולא יירא אדוני עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא והתנסה בחפצו כל אזי מלך שמו נקרא אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא והתנסה בחפצו כל אזי מלך אזי מלך אזי